My guest today is actually, ironically, the author of that book that I just gave. It's called Pop Culture New York City. He is a pop culture historian. He has a website also called popspots.nyc. It is basically it's a catalog. The book is also a catalog of everything pop culture New York. He's a historian. He's great. You guys are going to love him. He's so excited. He's already coming up here. Give it up for Bob Egan. Bob Egan, everybody. There you go, Bob. There's the mic and I'm handing over the clicker to Bob. Let Lord have mercy on our souls, huh? Here you go. So we're going to talk a little bit about what he does, about some of the things that he's seen, and let's go. How are you, Bob? First of all, how are you?
We're so close. This is supposed to.
All right, I can move away if you want. Good Lord.
When they're right next to something.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. We negotiated about the clicker for about half an hour.
Yeah.
Who's going to do it? But I wanted to start off by saying that.
I can hold that if you want.
That's the book that I write, and that lists 2,000 pop culture locations in New York, where all the movies were done, where album covers were shot, where all the famous people live, where the sports were, and all sorts of different history. It's based on my website called Pop Spots, where I track down where famous rock and roll photographs were taken. So to show you how that works, how about that?
That's Bob.
Here, okay. I'm just going to stand here just so I can see it from the side. This is a famous picture of David Bowie that was released 2 days before he died 8 years ago. And people all over the world have been looking for it for years. I happened to figure out the location last week, and it was in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. I used ChatGPT, and I asked where did he film his last video, and they always used to say a different location, but they changed the location, and once it was there, I look on Google Maps and I can zoom right in to see where it was, and so I saw something that looked like the entrance, and so I went over and photographed it, and that's exactly what Bowie looked like, and that's what I do on my website. Now, the guy who lives in or who works in that location, he wrote that discovery totally made my day. He was an artist, and somebody else wrote in, "Oh, my stars, of course it did. To know he was there, imbuing the place with his magic forever, and to have this epic photo, that's crazy." So that's kind of the theme I wanted to talk about tonight, which was the power of place, the power of location, why people want to go visit famous places.
Yeah, and I think this is an important point. Like, one of the reasons I think it's important work, like even with like tour guides and people like Bob, is that this, even though you talk about pop culture and people freak out about what's happening in the rest of the world, this is how you create a connection to a place. This is how you feel connected to where you live, to where you visit. This is why people come from all over the world. It's why people feel like they're seeing a celebrity when they come and visit here. So it's important. It's important work.
Yeah, they want to go to the exact places. So
yeah,
my
true.
Website, I tell people exactly how I found the location, and this is kind of like backwards praise. But I get all these letters all the time. I love your website. I wasted my entire weekend reading through every entry. Because it's all pictures and it kind of grabs you. So tonight we're going to talk about the top 10 pop culture locations in New York City, or there was other ones too, but these were ones that I chose. So we can sit down now, I guess, right? Okay, so
far away.
I think just so everybody can see.
I think I creeped Bob out.
Okay.
He's like, "What are you doing?"
Does anyone
so
know where this is? This is the Friends.
Bedford and Grove, that's right. Bedford
this is the
Grove.
location for Friends.
Yeah.
That was the Central Perk down on the bottom. And this is probably the most popular place these days for people to come from around the world. And they're there all day long getting their picture taken.
The exterior, by the way, just the exterior.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, around the corner from that is Carrie Bradshaw's house from Sex and the City. Now, it was supposed to be up on East 73rd Street, but it's on Perry Street, right down by the Magnolia Cafe, where they ate all the cupcakes and stuff. So there's another place that people come all the time. And
yeah,
what you said,
actually, recently the owner who lives there filed for a permit to build an iron fence, so people won't go onto his stairs anymore. He put like a little chain, but it's not enough, and he's filed for a permit. So it's going to look like it's going to look like a supermax prison pretty soon, I imagine. But yeah.
So, the Ghostbusters. This is down in Tribeca.
Yeah. Northmore.
And yeah, they just had a big party there the other day because I think they do it once a year. I don't know what particular day they do.
And if
for
you
it,
knock, they'll let you check it out inside if they're around. A little tip.
Okay. Now,
I was like, "What are you doing?"
no, I didn't know that, but
True.
it's been a while. Sometimes I've been doing this for 12 years now. So some of these I went to 12 years ago. Anyway, everybody know what this is from Seinfeld, right? This is Tom's Restaurant. It's at 112th, I think, in Broadway. There was a famous song sung here. Anyone know what it is?
Yeah,
Tom's Diner by Suzanne Vega, right?
Yeah, you guys know that what song? Does anyone here not know it? It's the one that goes do 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 do.
Is it?
That was pretty good. Come on. Anyways. All right.
And you're Tom.
That's right. I am Tom.
Yeah, okay.
It's my diner.
No wonder you like it so much.
Yeah.
All right, the next famous place that millions of people come to each year is the Lennon's apartment in the Dakota. Actually, they lived on the 7th floor. See this? The 7th floor. They had these windows from here to there, and they had a couple of the rooms up in the top. But it's interesting to me that all of the floors in the whole building are pretty much alike up till 7, and then afterwards, it starts coming in crazy. So they have these weird staircases that go up to the offices. Sorry if nobody could hear me. What happened? Oh. Okay, so this is them coming out the front door. That was one of the 45s that from.
And I just want to
from
mention,
those
you guys should
albums.
really check out his site because that's what he does. Like Bob will line up exactly where famous album covers took place and everything. You'll see more as we go, but it's very cool.
So this is Strawberry Fields, which is in sight, and I think Yoko can look right out her window and see it. Does anybody know the city in the world where that made the mosaic and donated it? Naples, Italy. That's where it's from.
You didn't offer them any candy. They completely checked out. Sorry, Bob.
If I had offered anybody candy, would they come up with the information? Okay.
Everyone would have yelled something.
But I don't know how many people raise your hand if you've gone here. Yeah. Okay. There's always somebody with a guitar singing a Beatles song. It just goes on forever.
Yeah.
It's like the longest concert ever in the world history.
Yes, and to that point, this is actually, I used to tour guide there. I used to do weekly tours there. This is true. You're not gonna believe me, but the people who do the music there, who pay, they're run like a mafia. They don't let any new people come in, and if they do, they will kick you out physically. Like they have a complete monopoly on that area. It's kind of funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
So people go up and they lie down on
Yeah.
it and pray to or do whatever. And at the end of every day, it's full of flowers and stuff too that people have to get off. This is a movie that was filmed in the Dakota. Rosemary's Baby, that's right, where she became the spawn of the devil, which some people call Tom.
I saw that coming.
All right, okay.
I let you have that, Bob. I let you have it.
This is Marilyn from the 7-Year Itch, and she's on the corner of 52nd and Lex. So the night they filmed this, there were like 200 photographers and 1,000 people all cheering her doing this. And her husband didn't like it, and I think that he divorced her Joe DiMaggio, like two weeks later or something. But in the movie, they couldn't time it right in order to get that thing that blew up her way. So they built the whole scene again over in Hollywood. So this is the place now. If you want to go there, you can stay. I've never seen anybody actually with a dress on there, but I do see a lot of people.
And he's tried. He's tried. He's just parked it outside of there with binoculars, eating chips, waiting.
Yeah. What is cool is that the subway actually does come underneath it, and that it would have actually blown air. You know what I mean? Anyway. So this is another film location, Breakfast at Tiffany's. And they film this like way early in the morning at 5 in the morning because they wanted to have nobody there. You know the scene where, she eats some kind of little sandwich there, and then she's been up all night, and so she goes here for breakfast because it has all the beautiful stuff that she aspires to. But what I found interesting in this movie is that her co-star, George Papard, is this guy. He's in the mirror. And I mean, because he was on set early in the morning, that he's in one of these outtakes anyway. The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. This is on Jones Street in the Village. They took about 15 shots in order to get this particular one. And a lot of people come and stand in the location. So this is, you notice it's in the winter, right? There's snow. So I went down in the winter and I took the picture. I'm going to get back to this in 1 second, but here's the Obamas. You know what I mean? A lot of people kind of fake this look. Highway 61 Revisited. This is an album cover that took me a while to figure out, but this was on Gramercy Park West. And if you go there, you'll see that the door, and this was the clue that kind of solidified it for me, has this little gold piece on it. There's two of them, a copper right here, and so that's how I matched it up. The way I figured it out was that he had the same manager as Janis Joplin, and Janis Joplin said in one of her books, I used to sit out at Gramercy Park West on the fire escape and look out. And so I said, well, that must be the same one as Dylan. So this is Blonde on Blonde. This is my favorite find, basically. This took about 5 or 8 years to figure out. This is it was kind of blurry. He took about 10 different shots, but he liked the blurry one because he said my mind is blurry.
That's deep.
Anyway, so
that's deep, dude.
So this is on the West Side Highway at West Street. One of the main clues was that it had there was an overhead highway, and it was casting a shadow down. And so some guy I knew, he looked through the files of the New York State Department of Transportation, and he found an aerial photo that had this building in it. So anyway, getting back to the day that I went down to photograph the Freewheeling album, there was, as I was standing there, a guy came up to me, a postman, and he said, do you know where Cornelia Street is? And I used to live on Cornelia Street, it was right there. And I said, this guy doesn't know anything. So within about 5 minutes, he was up on Dylan's door, which was on West 4th Street. And I said, I'm gonna go up here and stand next to this guy. And when he tries to get in the building, I'm gonna see if I can go in. So he did, because he didn't know where to put the mail. So, a guy came down and I said, do you know Dylan lived here? And he goes, yeah. And I said, do you live in his apartment? And he goes, yeah. And I said, can I come up and take pictures? Yeah, come on up. So for 15 minutes, I was taking pictures. And I'm the only guy ever since 1964 when he moved out who have ever come in to take pictures of Dylan.
How many of you guys would let Bob into your apartment to take pictures claiming that it was Bob Dylan's apartment? Now you know a good way to get into people's places, by the way. They're like, is this where Blind Melon lived? I don't know. They're like, yeah, I guess so. But
the guy said, I said, you don't mind when I publish this, do you? And he goes, no, we might get chicks. That was, so.
And there's nothing more West Village than that. Holy Lord, that is a West Villager if I've ever heard one.
It's a famous picture of James Dean in Times Square. He's at 43rd and 7th,
Yeah,
I believe.
he was just getting his caricature drawn. He's coming back.
Yeah, he was getting scammed, right?
He just got a free CD.
Right at this location right here was this photograph. This is the second photograph. This is not the famous photograph, but this is a side view of the same photograph. But it was interesting that it was all taken in the exact spot.
And they didn't know each other. They actually didn't know each other. This is true. They didn't know each other. There's all the excitement and everything. They didn't actually know each other. So
these two people didn't know each other.
Yeah, they did not know each other. The two in the photo did not know each other. So a nice little memento of assault. A nice little memento you get to keep of that. The time you got assaulted by a sailor.
So she actually didn't like it too much. You can see her hand is the way it's gripped, and look at him grip. He was afraid to kind of touch her. So. But
you see something, say something. And
right above that is, of course, huge pop culture icon, the Swarovski, is that what it's called?
Swarovski.
Yeah.
Swarovski.
How many people have been in Times Square on New Year's Eve? Wow. It's just one. You know, when I first moved to town in 1977...
We now know who's crapped their pants. And who's crapped their pants on the 31st of December. Right there. Sorry.
Crack their pants?
Yeah, people have to like pee in their pants to not lose their spot.
Crap their pants. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, crap. He's like, oh, I've done that.
Yeah. Okay. No, in the past, 25 years ago, it was very easy to go here. Anybody could just walk up. There were no police, no anything. Yeah.
Yep. Vanilla Sky. Yeah.
This is from Vanilla Sky.
Yeah.
This was the Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah, and they actually rented out. This is interesting. They rented out the entire Times Square for this shot where it was empty. I don't know if you guys have seen it. And Tom Cruise, like he does in almost every one of his movies, runs really fast. And they rented it out, and it was dead in the morning. There wasn't supposed to be much traffic on a Sunday, and there was still so many complaints from New Yorkers that they never did it again. So now they don't rent out. They don't keep Times Square open for movies anymore because of this.
Who do you rent Times Square?
You rent it from Airbnb. You just go on Airbnb.
You have to look it up.
Yeah.
Okay, these are kind of obscure, but if you're literary bent, this is where Jack Kerouac wrote On the Road. It's like 400 and something West 20th Street. And he's famous for this was a famous book in the 1950s that helped start the Beat Generation with Allen Ginsberg. And what he did was that he got a roll of this thin paper. It was kind of stuff they use in a teletype machine. It was 120 feet long, which means it was from the whole length of this room, basically. And he didn't want to stop typing. He didn't use paragraphs. He didn't use capital letters or anything. So he just stuck it in, and he just kept on typing. And it took him like 20 days, I think, to write the entire book. But they used to show this at the New York Public Library. They had the whole thing rolled out, and you could read it. This was a picture of Jack Kerouac, and I won't say where it is, but does anyone recognize this? I worked for like a year trying to figure out what that building was, because to me it looked like a football stadium in the background. But actually, it's this fountain in Columbia University, and this is what they look like standing in front of it. But sometimes
I love that. That's great.
I've got 75 long pop spots and 450 little ones, and sometimes they take 10 years, sometimes they take 10 minutes.
It's dedication right there, man. Dedication. Yeah.
Thank
you know how many creepy looks he has to take from people? Like, what is this guy doing here?
The guy on the right is named Carr, and his son wrote The Alienist. You know that book?
No.
Yeah, you do.
Alienist?
The Alienist, a famous New York City book, and it's got the picture of like a guy in an old wagon on 8th and anyway, he lives in Greenwich Village. It's a famous book.
Okay.
We should have had the picture.
Wow.
But anyway,
I just got put in my
anyone
place.
here know the book? Anybody here know Caleb Carr or not? No. Okay.
The Alienist? Yeah. Okay.
It was a TV show.
Yeah, with Sigourney Weaver.
And he wrote a sequel too.
I saw the movie.
Okay, this next location of pop culture that the people can't come to see it anymore, but this was the Andy Warhol's factory. Maybe you've heard of Andy Warhol's factory, where he created like all of his stuff. This has been knocked down, but it's over by the UN basically.
This is the first one, right? The first factory, no? Because eventually it moved to Union Square. They had to win the Union Square. Two.
Yeah, there were 3 total.
Yeah.
And this was number 1.
Yep.
But this is what it looks like on the inside, and he had one of the guys who worked for him put tin foil all over the ceilings.
Yeah.
And so it was called the Silver Factory. And it was the Velvet Underground's first album cover is taken when they're sitting in this chair right here. This is where he would make all the Brillo boxes. That was, what's it called?
Art.
Pop art. Yeah, pop. That's art. Okay, the next location, famous location, CBGB's, and this is the Ramones. Anybody go to CBGB's in its heyday?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was great. Seedy, very seedy. But that's down on the Bowery. This is Debbie Harry standing in front of the same place. And you see the Palace Hotel. See, it was right next to where all the, like,
Yeah.
the bums or whatever you
Yeah.
call them.
The bums or whatever you call them.
Well, I don't. It's not
love it.
PC to say that, but
Sure.
in the old days, that was
Yeah.
Skid Row.
Skid Row,
in
yeah.
New
People
York
would be
City.
drunk and all that stuff, yeah.
And here's Patti Smith in
Yep.
the same place.
Yep.
So they all hung out there.
Yeah.
That whole punk.
A little
era.
trivia: the Ramones got their name. Did you know this? How they got their name?
Yes, I did, but you tell.
The Beatles. The
That's
Beatles
right.
used to use the alias as their last name, Ramone, when they would check into hotels and stuff early on, and so they went by the Ramones.
Paul
It would be
McCartney.
like Paul Ramone, Paul Ramone,
Yeah.
and whatever. So they would use that as an alias, so they just went by the Ramones.
And their names weren't all Ramone either.
No, they weren't. They weren't actually named the Ramones. Yeah. They went by it. Yeah.
Who was Joey? Joey's last name. Do you know?
I don't remember.
I forget. Okay.
Fatone, I think.
Okay, the next literary place is the Algonquin Hotel. Now, in the 1920s and 30s, there were 20 famous writers. They used to have 30 newspapers, and they used to have 800 theaters, and so there was always theater, and there was always guys writing about it, and they would write about it, and then they stayed up late, but then they would they would all come here to lunch. 20 different people. Here they are. There's all these famous literary people, and they all quoted each other, and they tried to outdo each other with famous lines and stuff. Now, there's a woman here is Dorothy Parker, the one on the left. Okay, this is what the place looked like, and I've spent over 10 years trying to find a picture of the round table, and there's two little round tables in the middle here, and this is where it was, but no one knows what. There's no photograph, as far as I know, of the round table. After all those years that these people were famous in all the papers. Anyway, these are the kind of things that drive me nuts at night trying to figure out.
And this picture Bob got when he broke in the middle of the night. So that's why it's completely empty. And you can't hear it, but there's an alarm going off as well.
It was full. I scared them off when I came in. That's the thing. Here's one of the famous lines that Dorothy Parker wrote. I love to have a martini, 2 at the very most. After 3, I'm under the table. After 4, I'm under my host. Okay, so that was a kind of wit that would go around here. All right, this is the famous picture called Nighthawks by Edward Hopper, and he lived on Washington Square North.
There's a plaque on his building. Yeah.
He spent most of his life in Washington Square, and most of his paintings are in the neighborhood. And so I researched this, and I figured that this was taken at the corner of 11th Street and Greenwich Avenue. What I did is that Hopper said I painted a restaurant, and I made the restaurant bigger, and it was where Greenwich Avenue meets another street. So that left could have been 8 different intersections. So I photographed all the intersections, came up with 32 different intersections, and then I figured out all these different reasons why it couldn't be these particular ones, and it ended up to be the one that I said, mostly because this restaurant extends out. You see how you can see that building over there in the back left? You can look right over this building, and that's the way this building is right here on Greenwich at 11th Street. See, it sticks out from the building.
And keep in mind, people didn't really know where this was. Bob found it. And you want to tell the story about how was it MoMA? MoMA took
Well, MoMA at about the same time put out their version, and they said it was a block up from behind this movie theater and stuff. But lately, they're starting to say that it's this.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Let me see. Okay. Oh, I'm going to go back just to say. I was telling Tom when I've been to many famous places in New York City, But when I went to, I made a reservation to go to see Hopper's room. You can go to see the place where he painted all that stuff. It's on 3 Washington Square. You have to make a reservation with NYU. But when I went there and I started to open the door handle, my hand shook like this because he was so famous, and I was touching the same handle that Edward Hopper did. And, like I've been where Dylan was and, Mick Jagger and all these other people. But anyway, that's the one thing that moved my body, let's put it that way.
Then you realized it was just indigestion. It was like,
well, I ate the food at that place. It's not that good. You notice there's no way to get into that room, right? Right? That's the back door to the kitchen, but there's no entrance, so. All right, here's another famous pop culture land spot in New York City. Everybody seen this picture before? Okay. This is now when you go into Top of the Rock at Rockefeller Center, they actually have a ride now that I think you can get 8 people sit on a rod just like that, and they lift you like 8 feet up off the ground and down.
It costs $3,000 to go up, yeah.
Anyway, so you see they're on a double, on a piece of metal that's double
Beam.
wide.
Yeah.
Now, people say that they did it on the 100th floor. I think they did it on the 50th floor. And they took it the same day, and you can see that these people are not as high as like the Chrysler building over there, right? So that means they're not as high as as Rockefeller Center. So
that means they're
these
cowards.
are the same guys. They same guys. They just
these are complete cowards. They no stomach.
Yeah. Well, they just walked over to the other side and they took
Yeah.
the picture. But one thing that I have never been able to find is that the food thing that they're all eating. So they all say VOS on it. You see all those boxes? They've all been given these sandwich boxes that say VOS, and I've tried everything to try to figure out what that would stand for. But anyway, did not find it. All right, the final one of the day is King Kong from 1933. There's Faye, by the way.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
It's a
just
high res photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's right there.
It looks like he has somebody else in his hand too. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that is the end.
Oh,
okay,
look at
but
that.
that
Pretty cool.
is there any other spot that immediately comes to one of you people that would say this is the most famous pop culture spot in New York?
Keep in mind, whatever you respond, Bob will spend the next 3 weeks hanging out there. Central Park has a lot. Central Park is the most filmed location in the world.
That's right.
I'm sure you spent a lot of time getting spots there, right?
Yeah, I have a whole. So if you go to my website, I have like 100 pop culture spots in Central Park, and you can see where all these famous people were: the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five, and John Lennon. And so some people, if you do it, then you might want to stand there, get your picture taken,
Sure.
and send it out to your friends.
Yeah. Well, I got a question then, I guess, based on what we were talking about. Just time for a couple questions real quick. You love pop culture. You've done all this work. What's your favorite New York movie of all time?
Taxi Driver. Travis Bickle. There's a lot of, I've hunted all of the different locations, and it's a lot of fun, and it's kind of, seedy. I like Times Square back in the day when it was seedy and a lot of weird stuff going on. So.
And I guess doing all this stuff, have you ever run into any celebrities? Have you have any celebrity stories in New York at all?
I have passed tons of celebrities like Lou Reed and Robert De Niro, but the one time that I think that is the funniest was that my wife and I were coming out of a building, and Jackie Kennedy was right behind the window eating. It's a restaurant, and I said, "Lou, it's Jackie Kennedy." And so she said, "Let me look." And she gets over there, and I said, "Don't say anything. Don't let her know." And she said, "How could you do that to Jackie Kennedy? She's the wife of the president." She goes, "I was kidding you. I couldn't see her when I did it." You know what I mean? But anyway, so.
And that was actually the day after JFK was assassinated, by the way. I think you left that
Yeah,
detail
we're
out.
always trying to look on the bright side of things.
Trying to cheer her up.
Yeah.
What place in New York best represents the city to you?
For me, Washington Square Park, because when I first moved to New York City, I moved a block away from Bob Dylan without knowing it, but I was on Cornelia Street. As a matter of fact, I paid $150 a month for my apartment in 1977. And right across the street and down about 3, Taylor Swift just paid $15,000 a month for. She got a whole building with a pool in it and stuff like that. She wrote a song called Cornelia Street. Anyway, so I've often spent a lot of time in Washington Square Park, and there's music, and you're always seeing something new there.
We're going to slide into that game that every New Yorker plays of what you can get for your money in other cities. But before we do that, if you could live anywhere other than New York, where would you live?
I'd probably live in Los Angeles, simply because it has so many interesting places. And when I used to watch Superman, back when it was black and white TV, Superman could go to the desert, and he could go to the mountains, and he could go to the ocean, all in one TV show. And you can do that in L.A. You know what I mean? You can go up to the mountains, you can see snow, and go swimming in the same day. So that would be an interesting thing. Although I don't like cars, I haven't owned a car in like 12 years.
Wow.
I didn't even own a TV for 10 years. I used to sit in the window with the antenna, and I would move it like this in order to see Colbert at night. And then they went digital, and they couldn't use that anymore. I was like the last guy, So it's what Fitzcarraldo, what it was some movie where the guy is on a raft with a bunch of monkeys. That was me. Okay.
What were we talking about again?
No,
All right.
I'll remember what that movie was.
No, it's totally
okay.
fine. I think everyone knows what you're talking about. All right, one more question. A couple more questions. But this is what's the craziest thing you've ever seen in New York?
Well, seen a lot of crazy things, but
I don't doubt it.
One that I always think was kind of a crazy experience was I was crossing 39th Street at Fifth Avenue, and for doing my own thing, and all of a sudden I looked up, and the street was closed off, and the Pope was going down, and he had the window down, and he was doing this, and so he did this to me, so I did it back to him. And so, that was my run-in with some Pope, and it was probably 25 years ago, I forget when, but how else do you signal a Pope, right?
Wow. I don't know if you knew this, but in the Vatican City, that means go screw yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go screw yourself, buddy. All right, well, one more question, Bob. I mean, for the sake of tradition, I'll ask you a very important question. Will you be my friend?
Can I ask the audience? What should I?
We have a friendometer. All right.
Yeah, I am your friend.
I know. That's why I do it for the sake of tradition.
Continue to be your friend.
Thank you for continuing to be my friend. Guys, give it up one more time for Bob Egan. And real quick, Bob will be selling his book. He's got a few copies of his book.
I bought 5 copies of my book.
Yep.
It usually sells for $20. I'm just selling them for $10. It's less than I
Signed.
pay for them. But if you want to get it, I'll be right here afterwards. And so, as I said, it lists 2,000 places to look.
He'll be right here even through the next show.
Till they carry me out. I'm not going.
He's not moving. But guys, give it up one more time for Bob Egan, everybody.
Thank you.
But yeah, we made it through the show. Did you guys enjoy yourselves? You guys enjoy yourselves?